So maybe our listeners can let us know if we're being weird about this. If you've been to our house, you know that parking tends to be an issue. And if my mom listens to this one, hopefully she'll giggle because that turned into a pretty heated conversation one night. But we have this neighbor who she's a fairly new neighbor. And what she was starting to do was park across the street. She lives across the street from us. So she would park on our side of the street. Mm-hmm. And we'd come home and she'd either be parked in Kevin's spot, and then one day she'd be parked in my spot, and then she started parking in the neighbor's spot. So she was like parking in all of these different spots, which it's a very fragile ecosystem of parking on our street. So if somebody is parked in somebody else's spot, it messes up the whole thing. So we come home one day and she's parked in Kevin's spot. So Kevin, being who he is, goes over and addresses her and basically asks, "What did you say to her?"
Can you park your car on this side of the street?
Yeah, can you park in front of your house?
As you see, we don't have driveways, and all this room on your side. People here will understand that that's yours, right in front, and
she was like so put off by the question.
Right? Yeah, she was like, because I have another Suburban over across an old 20-year-old Suburban in front of her house.
Which we try to put in between the houses because we understand.
We understand. And I was like, I can move across the street. I can move it to the next thing. But they don't have any other cars. And if I would have witnessed that, obviously I would have moved mine as well.
Yeah.
But we leave plenty of room for them because that is the ethics of.
Because she's the only one over there. And she's got a nice
Arizona.
Lawn. Yeah.
They didn't.
She was just so like, is there an etiquette to it? I mean, yes.
Yeah. It's a public street. I get it. But if I got to take my kid out of the car and it's raining and it's doing whatever and I got to cross the street.
It's just like, well, most people like to park in front of their homes. It's just.
Because we don't have front driveways.
Weird conversation. I'm glad it was you and not me because I
was hoping it was going to be Steve.
I probably would have just been like, no, you're right. Have a nice day. Sorry I asked.
Because the night before, me and Steve, we always meet. Well, we still meet at the gate and our fence, and we always talk every night. But a lot of nights. And he was going, man, why is he parking in my spot? Because he is, he's 60-some now years old.
Yeah,
and I get it. You got to walk across the street, but it's getting to get cold. And
like it's not a big deal, but it is just more convenient
to him. It's
for
50
everybody.
Years of etiquette. So I put a damper on him going, all right, get your car.
Let us know your thoughts if you thought we were being out of line by asking her that question. Welcome to the Teacher's Curse. I'm Annie.
I'm trouble. And I had an upside down flag at the time too.
Right. And all the signs out in front of it was it was pretty loud and obnoxious
too. So maybe there was something going on.
Anytime I let you know that I'm inconvenienced by something, you go and try and fix it. It's like, oh God, okay, here we go.
Take care of your wound.
So I am really excited about today's topic because it is a major shift in education in Montana and how that's going to be handled. I still don't think it's enough, but I think it's a really good giant step in the right direction. And that is the education savings accounts, which are going to start going into effect sometime next year.
Right.
So if you don't know what that is, well, I have an article to reference. which is Why Public Schools Should Love ESAs. This is from Yes, Every Kid Foundation, which I think is kind of a fun name for a foundation.
Okay.
And I won't read this whole thing to you, but it is a really great article. I can drop it in the comment section so that you can read through it. But I did just want to use it for reference, explaining why these are going to be really useful to all parents who are seeking a little bit of extra financial help in their children's education. So what is an education savings account? Your understanding of it?
Well, that's where the taxpayers' money goes into an account for any other services outside of the school district. Was that general?
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is.
So yeah, they provide direct education funding to families, enabling them to tailor their child's education. So, of course, the major argument is, should taxpayer funding go to anything that's outside of public education? Which is a huge question. Because depending on how you feel about taxes and how they should be utilized, is going to determine really how you view anything that's being handled publicly. So, in my opinion, taxpayer money being used for education dollars belongs to the parent.
Yep.
Because that funding has to be allocated to the child anyway, whether or not they are attending that school. There has to be money available to any child for those public services.
Or an alleviation from making them pay taxes. If you can show that your kids are being homeschooled and you have to register with your counties and which not, and I can take that in and say, I'm not paying taxes. I need a reduction in my taxes.
Yeah.
Then we can have another conversation about that.
Yeah, because it's that, do you view that taxpayer dollars ultimately belong to you? So there are those that, believe that it belongs to everybody. So those are going to be the ones that are really fighting against anything being spent outside of the public school system. But then you have to ask the question, well, what happens when the public school system is failing
the services,
the kids that they're supposed to be servicing, failing the families that they're supposed to be servicing? Which I think is the point that we are at now. And I think that these ESAs, again, are a good step in the right direction to giving that decision making back over to the parent to decide what they're going to do. So what it opens up for, though, is it allows kind of these blended models to happen where they can still be serviced by the public school system.
Yes.
But they can also seek services in other areas such as tutoring, such as, a part-time pod schooling, which we offer. If you want to use it toward services in a private school, so any private setting, it allows. My understanding is it can also be used for, clubs and extracurriculars and things of that nature as well. I think that depends on the state that you're in, and we're still looking to see if that's true here.
Right.
So, but right now, universal education accounts, universal ESAs, are available in 29 states. I'm sorry, 12 states. There's ESAs in 29 states. Universal ESAs are in 12 states. So this article said that they did a study. 80% of families want a customizable education experience. Okay. So
Yeah.
I want that to sink in for a second.
I want that for my child.
Right. To be able to have power over what their child's doing, being able to afford that, being able to put money toward it.
Right.
But only 38% feel they have access to a customizable education experience. So, you know, the school choice argument has been growing, obviously, in popularity, in legislatures, you know, because when it comes down to it, parents need to feel that they have choices in the United States of America.
In the
You know,
in the United States of America.
we like to have choices.
Weird.
And to me, a choice is not this or that. Right? It's not one thing or the other. Choice is
a variety.
A wide variety. Okay, so this talks about breaking the either or model. Like I was just talking about, right? You can do this or you can do that. These ESAs are going to kind of blow that open because it used to be that and how it still is currently in our area is if you want a more personalized learning experience, you have to leave the public school system. We're now making headway in that where you can still participate in the public school system and get services in other areas.
Yeah, I think we pioneered that because they did. We were doing it, and we were saying, you know, you can go to school half day with the school district, and then come and get your education, your academics with us. Still go to school and go in English classes and do all of that other stuff. But there's certain things that we are hitting that are customized to that child that fit them much better than any of the services could happen in school.
Yeah. And the idea is like that should be available to all children.
Absolutely. I don't know.
So, and that's where I think that the ESAs available in Montana are not going to be enough because right now they're only for the special education students.
Yep.
I think that needs to be blown up. I think that it needs to be available for all. You know, so do you think that these are the future of education personalization? Do you think that there's
I do. I don't think they can fight this back any longer. I think the districts can't fight it back any longer. They're short staffed. They're not meeting the needs of the kids, and that is evident. Just go to OPI Gem, go look up your school and see how they're doing, or your districts, and do your own investigations. But even then, it makes a happier district, though, and I don't think they trust that because community they can help the school, and they don't necessarily. They think that they're just going to leave. I mean, first IDA law is if you have a special education child, no matter what state you go to, they always have to have the same evaluation when they come back in. They have to have the same thing. So if you have an old copy or whichever else, you can still go back in. It's not, and in some instances, why aren't we letting them try, number one? And number two, it really does benefit the child. And they may stay 2 years. They may stay out of the district for the rest, or they might stay 1 year. I don't think it should be such a big battle, but because taxes are 70% of your taxes in Montana go to schools, their funding is essential. It's $13,000 per child that goes into these, and they're deathly afraid of losing that. Well, community members and community places like ours that can fluctuate and help them out. I think it rolls just fine. I think it'd be just fine, but I don't think they can hold it back for very much longer.
So how can districts adapt to these partnerships like ours, right? What does that look like logistically and I guess financially is going to be what's coming up. But how can they change it? To our districts, in their defense, I do think that they're starting to address that. And we're going to talk about those listening sessions in a future podcast. But I think we have a semblance of an administration that is actually wanting to answer those questions of how do we now change the format of what we're doing and implement these things to fulfill our parents' desire. Because that's really what it comes from, right? It's, yes, there's this growing microschooling movement that's happening. There's a growing homeschool movement that's happening. Where you vote by the choices that you make, right? This is a result of the parents saying, we need something else.
Yep.
We need something new. We need something different. This isn't working for us anymore. So what do you think schools need to do in order to answer that and address it?
Well, if I was on the school board, I'd be saying, open up all the tutoring agencies we possibly can.
Yeah.
Open everything that we can. Help them.
Anybody who wants to help.
Anybody who wants to help. You know, and again, it could just be just on the tutoring sides of just the special ed alone would be huge for the child's advancements. Huge. And really be open to those discussions that are actually meeting with the community members who do have the private facilities, tutoring agencies and things like that, and actually sitting in with them. Like, call them into your board meetings, call them into whatever this thing is, and meet once a month if you have to.
Yeah. So opening up communication.
Opening up those communications. They always have, when it first starts out, they always have this big wall, and you just got to keep taking these bricks out one by one, and it's tiring. And then I get a phone call, say, man, they entered back into school. They were awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
So I'm predicting a little bit, this is from experience, and I might be pleasantly surprised. I'm predicting a little bit of pushback from employees of the school.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think it's going to kind of take to turn that around? You know, because we've seen that they feel threatened by outsiders coming in, you know, and being part of it. And I don't know why, but we've seen that. What do you think that's going to?
Can we reassure them, please, that they can come work at these facilities? Like, you can, the summertime, you need extra cash. You know, we would love to see the teachers in giving back those services during the summer. The private sector can give those jobs to those teachers that are actually coming and, you know, want to work through those extra 3 months or those extra 2 months or pick up a little bit of extra. And I think the less stress on the teachers in the school will actually help after school programs.
That's what I think too. I think it's going to alleviate so much stress on the teachers. And I think sometimes you get worried about that because it's for anybody, whether or not you're a teacher or whatever. But when somebody comes in and like helps you with something, you can either you run the risk of feeling inadequate when somebody is helping you do the heavy lifting.
Well, especially if they're getting higher marks than you are. Sometimes that gives them a little bit of less confidence to address what's working and what's not. And it could simply be just your behaviors.
Yeah.
and just your stress that you are having in your schools. That's it's huge.
Yeah, and that's a great angle to take it from is, because we want to keep saying like, oh, it's a money problem. Teachers aren't being paid enough. And that may or may not be true. But what I do know about teachers is nobody gets into teaching for the money.
Cliche.
Nobody. Nobody gets into teaching for the money.
No.
And I think that that's been taken advantage of quite a bit? Yes, I do. But also I know that teachers are happier working for less if they're happy in their job and they love what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And this may be one of the things that alleviates what has been burdening teachers
Mm-hmm.
for the past decade, 2 decades, however far back you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Of not having what's the word?
Autonomy.
Autonomy. Thank you.
I got it right.
You got it right.
See that? That doesn't happen very often.
It addresses them not having autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Because now there's a team, so that autonomy is going to go back to them, where they are now in control of their classroom again. But it just might, because we're going to see kids' confidence go up because they're going to have a variety of methods and personalities, right, that they're working with. They're going to get a break from being in those schools all day. Yeah, that's not really something that I had thought about, but it really, that should be part of the argument is it's going to benefit teachers. It really is. It has
It really is. And like I was saying, the more private facilities that are in an area for tutoring or those simple things like that, the better the teachers have for a variety of people they want to work for. But we're still in conversation with it kind of just works because teachers, we don't really deviate from assessments. We understand them. We don't deviate. Some might be method, and that's a good thing to find out what other methods, you can get into ruts and other methods are different than others. If you don't agree with some of the methods, you can go to a different tutoring agency or a different community that's helping you teachers out. And I encourage those, if they are listening, don't be discouraged because private businesses are coming in. We really do want to help. We want to make sure that all of the kids, and I think that's the baseline of everything.
I think it'll change the conversation to like, we have your back.
Yeah.
Right? We have the teachers' backs. We want you guys to be successful. We want classroom teachers to feel good about what they're doing. And I think that's going to be major. Of course, it's going to benefit kids and families as well. I think that this is going to be a really great, a really significant step to how we view education. So quite a few states, Utah included. Sorry, I know I said I was going to take some time to talk about the things Utah doesn't do well, but they keep popping up. So Utah, Florida, West Virginia, and Arizona allow ESA students to access public school programs. So we're seeing these states kind of jump on it.
Wait a minute. Are their schools still running? Are their public schools still running?
With these programs put in
place.
And they're actually doing well?
Yeah. Like if you look at the statistics on states' achievements, where's Utah?
Yeah, it was number 2.
Number 2.
I think Florida was up there. It was in the top 5.
Oh, kick our ass. Kick Montana's ass.
Yeah.
We have to move to something, guys. We cannot keep going. We cannot keep going this way. The pushback with the unions and all of that. Listen, you need to get out of your own way. These are not. there was a time when I was huge on pensions, and I talked about this before, and probably in another podcast. My mom's pension for her tenure. Okay, when I was in the public schools for downtown, you want to be tenured, and you want to have your good old, retirement, right? That's gone, guys. Even your Social Security is not going to be there when you get back. You can't put that in there, okay? So you being an independent contractor too would be awesome in this whole kind of community, facilities that are also there. I'll hire you as a contractor for the summer, and you're your own entity. Obviously, you're under, Go and Grow, and everyone should be doing that. All tutoring agencies should be doing that, and letting them come through our doors as well.
Yeah. So it's just back and forth.
It's a back and forth.
Yeah.
And it really does work. If you care about the kids, that's what you'd be doing. I have a hard time swallowing it, right? I can sit next to the worst jerk in the world if it's for kids.
Yeah.
If I don't
Sometimes
agree with
you are
nothing,
the worst jerk in the world.
and I am the worst jerk in the world. I fully agree.
As we've heard.
I fully agree. I'm the worst in meetings when I was in the public school system.
But it's for the kids. It's for community. It's for them being successful and confident. And if we're gonna say kids are the future, we have to mean it. And that means we have to adjust, because the future is going to make us adjust anyway. Right? It's
going to either push us into it, or it's going to give us a huge kick in the ass.
Yeah. And
one of the two.
I do fear a little bit that Montana, as the pattern goes, they like to lag behind a little bit on these trends. And I hope that they see sooner rather than later the benefits of this.
Yeah. Quit fighting in court. Somebody put something in 1972, in our Constitution. They wanted the best education for them. The interpretation is that was not the case, and it's strictly up to the public schools, and that money is ludicrous. If you think for 1 minute they didn't want the kids to actually have the best access to all education where they are going to, is a ridiculous, in my mind, way of thinking. It is.
It's archaic.
It is archaic.
So, yeah. So, if this is something that you think that you would be interested in pursuing, reach out to us, because we're going to start helping. We're teaming up with the Frontier Institute to make sure that parents are knowing that this is available to them. We're teaming up with the district to make sure that parents know that this is available to them. So it's something that is going to be just huge for our community, but as the state as a whole. So watch out for information, because we're going to be sending it out. The last application period just closed, but the next one will be opening up in May. So from here to May, there's going to be a big push to get signed up for these. So like I said, unfortunately, it's just for the special education community right now. It's fortunately and unfortunately. I think it needs to go to everybody, but it's going to be just awesome for our special education community. So if that fits you, then be on the lookout for the information that we're sending out. And as always, you can just check out Go and Grow at gogrowtutor.com. Make sure to like and subscribe our podcast on YouTube, and you can follow us on Spotify. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Annie.
And I'm Kevin.
Leather Barrels out.